Hey lads, back to the Barefoot Garage. Get a look at fuel caps. You fuel up, going for a ride, and 80 k's, 100 k's, so 50 mile down the road, you feel like you're running out of fuel. You've gone through and you've checked a heap of stuff, checked your taps, over time checked your taps, checked hoses, checked filters. How often do you check your fuel cap? So what we're going to go through is we're going to disassemble the fuel cap into a million little pieces and show you what can happen inside there. So pretty much Phillips head screwdriver, key, get yourself a, take your key out so you don't snap it off the ignition. Just get a piece of rag or something and put down your hole in your fuel tank, because you don't want the two screws that hold your fuel cap on, you don't want them going down your fuel into your fuel tank. So you only need to take one, because the other one will come off when you take the fuel cap off like that. So we'll slip over to the bench and we'll start pulling it apart. Are we going or we stopped?
Yeah,
we're going. So this is what we've got. You pull it apart. So we go through and we'll break everything off. We'll just crack everything before we go pulling stuff apart. So you need to undo these three tiny little screws. We'll just break them. If you've never done this before, they could be Loctited, or there'll be some type of factory Loctite in there, just to stop them coming undone. Go through and we can uncrack these ones off a little bit. So now that they're all undone, we'll go through and we'll take our key lock out. Just keep an eye, because there's a couple of screws have threads and a couple are self-tapped. So just keep an eye on which screws come out of where, so you don't bugger up your tank putting it back together now. So that's got that. So then that slides off the top. Just be careful. This is spring loaded. So depending on what you do, if you spring load that allows that piece to come out. So just make sure when you take stuff apart, you just do it real careful. That allows allows your key lock to come out. That comes out of there. Once that comes up, it comes out of the back. So then you're left with your fuel cap lid, and then you've got your assembly here. Now we've cracked these screws here, so there's an E-clip on the back. So we'll grab a small flat blade screwdriver.
I knew we forgot something.
You forgot something. So we'll pop this out of there. You push that down and you'll get it. Just be careful where you push, because you don't want to bend the piece of metal that you just pulled out of your fuel lid. So that pops off there, and then that comes off there. Then you've got your screw, you get your spring. Now you've got your three screws that we unloosened before, so you can unscrew them off now. So these are the ones with the self-tapping screws. So where I was saying before, you've got self-tappers and you've got threads. So here's the three screws. Pulls apart, pulls apart. Now this is a very old fuel cap rubber. So you just feed that off the top. That comes off there. Sometimes this part here can be quite hard to get out, but luckily for us it's falling out. Plus we've pulled it apart before. So they can be a bit difficult. Now, you'll find Get rid of that bit of rubbish. If you shake this, and you can hear that rattling. So hopefully you can hear that rattling. If you can hear that rattling, most of the time that's what your issue is for you running out of fuel, because you've got your breather, a tiny little breather hole here, and you have a tiny little breather hole on the top. And with that piece of metal laying down over your hole, when you're drawing fuel into the bike, you're creating a suction. So what we need to do is we need to take this Bakelite off the metal, and that from factory, this tiny little bit of a recess has foam in it, and that holds the flap open and lets the air go through your little holes. When you stop and your bike's hot and you can hear your tank breathing, well, yeah, that's fine, because the air's going this way and it's lifting the piece of metal up into that recess. But when you're riding and you're drawing fuel down, you're holding that down. So there's where your suction issue is coming from. How to get this Bakelite off that piece of metal? Well, all we're going to try and do is push a Stanley knife through here and press it down and try and cut through it that way. But so I've got myself a big ass welding glove so we don't slice ourselves, and basically we're just going to try and prise. Oh, well, there you go, look at that. So it didn't really take too much effort at all. So we weren't 100% sure what sort of effort that would take. So there you go. Don't need the glove anymore. So what's inside here, I don't know. There you go. So technically, there you go. Tiny little brass disc. So that's that. So that you can see straight through that. So maybe that's, well, that would be your issue. That sits on there.
Once it's flat across,
So if that sits flat across, sits down, so it's actually covering that hole. So there should be a piece of foam between that piece of copper and that piece of Bakelite, and that's where our problem is. So if we were to grab this tiny little piece of Scotch-Brite pad, put that in there, then put that on there, that'll squash down nice. Then we put this back on there, lining all the holes up. There we go, this way. We might have to do it reverse. Do that, put that in there. Line all our 3 holes up. That in the centre. And then we'll have to put this, that's going to have to sit on the top of that, like so. And then we can physically line our 3 holes up this way, like that, to put our 3 screws back in. Down in, yep. So when you've put it together again, you just put a little dollop of Silastic, fuel safe Silastic. Don't just use any Silastic. So use fuel safe Silastic, because petrol fumes will break down normal Silastic. So make sure it's, what do they call it, RV Silastic maybe? RTV. So then you just crimp them up. You don't need to lean on them. Just give them a little pinch. So now you can't hear that anymore. It's nice and solid. So you now have the hole going through your Bakelite foam, through your little tiny piece of copper washer, and through to that. So you can breathe and suck and breathe and through there with no issue at all now. So that's as far as fuel cap seals go, that's not that bad a condition. Some of them are terrible, but because we have them, we're going to install a brand new one. Mike's SS, Mike's SXS in the States stock them. It's the same from XS 650, the 750, they're all the same size rubber. So if you get one that fits an XS, it'll fit your 1100. If you're looking for a part number, we go to the Bible, go to our fuel tank page. We're looking for number 11. Number 11 here. So we've got 24612-00 and then -00 again for Google. For whatever reason, that's how the Americans have set it up. So that'll get your part number for the tank gasket, or just type in XS 1100 fuel cap gasket and that'll get you the part as well. So then it's just a matter of putting it back together that way. Remember which way it goes. We're going to put a bit of Celastic on there, won't we? More than not, just to stop it trying to come undone. Like you've pinched it up that little bit, just that blob will we'll just glue it there a little bit better. So it's just a matter of feeding that back onto there. You could probably use rubber grease or something if you really wanted to, but there's a from Errol, so ever ready? So means which means in Australian that's no. No, you dipstick, that's wrong. Or was that what was the was wrong?
That's what was about.
Was the wrong way. So we go is this way. It's even going on a little bit easier, so there you go. Righto, now that's better. So now put our spring back on. We push that back in there. Put that back through there. Making sure which part of the metal we grab hold of. Put that back, put that on there. That hurts. This is taking a bit more than what it was. There you go. That's back home. So then we've done that. So then we put that back inside the fuel cap. Put our lock back in. Put our lock over the top. Two tiny little screws with the washer, because one washer came off when we undid it. And the washer. Once again, just tiny little bit of pressure, nothing out of the ordinary. Just go through, make sure they've still done up. Cool. Grab our two screws, head back over the bike and put it back on. So the easiest way, if you've got a magnetic screwdriver, is to feed one through and then just feed it onto the hole. Don't do it up tight, just do it up so you can still move, and then you put the other one in. And you sort of center it, try and make it feel so it's centered. Then you put half a lean on it. Take your rag out, and close it. There you have the end of your troubles. Yeah, that little tiny piece of foam between the Bakelite, if that's what it is, Bakelite or whatever it's called, and that tiny little copper washer. Space that. She's all good. Happy travels.